Praised be Jesus and Mary. Saint Margaret of Cortona, which we celebrate today in the Franciscan calendar, is often referred to as the Magdalene of the Franciscan order. And she was just 7 years old when her pious mother died, and she ended up being neglected by her father, who married again within a short time. And her stepmother was unsympathetic, to say the least. She dealt harshly with her, so it wasn't any surprise that when Margaret turned 18, she left home. Unfortunately, her rare beauty got her into trouble. She eventually shacked up with someone for 9 years, and one day, after waiting in vain for a long time, her accomplice in sin, all of a sudden, his dog came to her whining and tugging at her dress, and she followed the dog deep into the woods, and before she knew it, she was standing before the murdered corpse of her lover, and she was stunned and at this appalling sight and filled with terror, and she asked herself, where is his soul now? And then and there she firmly resolved in the future to be even greater in penance than she had been in sin. So like the prodigal son, she returned to her native town, and in a penitential garb, her hair cut short, a cord around her neck, she knelt at the door of the church and publicly asked the whole congregation to forgive the scandal that she had given. And many people were edified by this public humiliation, but her stepmother was all the more embittered at it, so much so that she, as well as Margaret's father, forbade her to enter the parental home. And this reaction severely tempted Margaret to return to the road of vice, but God's grace sustained her and prompted her to move to the nearby town of Cortona, where she made a very contrite general confession to a Franciscan priest. And in a poor little shack, she now lived a secluded life in penance and tears and prayer, earning her scanty meals by hard manual labor. And after being tested 3 years, she was eventually allowed to receive the habit of the Third Order. And after being granted this favor, her fervor increased. And it's almost impossible to believe the rigorous penances that she performed from then on. She wept over her sins day and night and was often so choked up that she couldn't even speak. God assured her that her sins were fully pardoned and granted her special proofs of his favor. She was granted the gift of contemplation and the knowledge of the innermost secrets of hearts. And there were many times when people came from great distances and should remind them of mortal sins that they needed to confess. And she was instrumental in many conversions, and through her prayers and sacrifices, many souls were released from purgatory. Health was restored to the sick, and a dead boy was raised to life. And at our approach, demons shuddered and left those whom they possessed. Finally, after 23 years of rigorous penance, at the age of 50, God called Margaret home on February 22nd, 1297. Her body's preserved in a shrine at the Franciscan church in Cortona, a church which bears her name, and it's incorrupt to this day and often emits a pleasant odor. You know, it's incredible to see how God works in people's lives. I mean, from all appearances, you know, Margaret seemed like so many young people in our own day. Without God in one's life, you know, there is no hope. But, you know, what made the difference in Margaret's life was her sincere contrition. You know, we must never despair of the conversion of any sinner, you know, including ourselves. That no matter how difficult it may be, you know, to lay aside certain sinful habits, you know, with God's grace, we can succeed, as Father Emil says, you know, with Our Lady, we can succeed. But without Our Lady, you know, we're bound to fail. So let us redouble our prayers and our devotion to Our Lady so that we may follow the example of Saint Margaret of Cortona.